What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the CrazyFaceUno Podcast, where everyone has a story and everyone's story matters. What's your story? We would currently living in unprecedented times in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Together is how we defeat this invisible enemy. CrazyFaceUno has made the easy decision to send 100% of our online sales and donations to help aid in this crisis. More details will be available as we bring in the money, and we'll be figuring out what and who we'll be giving that to in the near future. If you'd like to contribute, please visit CrazyFaceUno.com today. With that said, I'm your host, Shane McNeely, and boy, are you in for a treat today. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our guest today. Please welcome Aaron Patrick. Welcome, Aaron.
Thanks for having me.
It is weird to call you Aaron. We are old college friends, roommates, enemies, all the above. And I've called you Patty all my life, and I think most people that are probably pretty close to you still do that. You still go by Patty?
It's interesting. So my college friends will call me Patty. We always joke that Aaron is basically my prison name, because that's the only time that anyone will ever call me that. Because now in my house it's Daddy or Babe.
Yeah.
Or worse things if I've done something wrong.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
And it's funny because like now in the coaching world, all of the guys call me AP.
Okay.
So I only hear Patty when I talk to my college buddies.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably just going to keep calling you Patty throughout the podcast, but just because it feels right.
Yep.
So we'll go with that, but at least we explained it. Dude, Patty, I was trying to think, as we were going, we even before we got started, we were trying to figure out, I think it's like 2010 was the last time I saw you. Yep. Or I barely spoke to you at all. I mean, I think we maybe messaged back and forth, or, we follow each other on Facebook, so I'm sure we've kind of done that whole social media following kind of thing. But you are married. You've got how many kids? Two kids, both girls, is that right?
No, I've got a little boy, Ollie, who's 5, and Zara is 3.
Nice. That's awesome.
And then two annoying dogs as well.
That's awesome. Patty, we were roommates our sophomore year of college. We met right out of the gates, and you pointed out recently that you did contribute to the name Crazy Face, which was my nickname in college. Which is also funny because when I go back and see college people still call me Crazy Face or Crazy or Craze or whatever. Like Joel still does that, like, to this day. So
yeah, it's one of those things that stuck, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I'd never heard of Patty until I came to college, and someone came up with it because there was 2 of us called Aaron from England in the same class. Yeah. So growing up, my nickname was Azza, but we had 2 of us, and they couldn't think of another nickname for Aaron Horton, so they kept his at Azza and changed mine to Patty. So
yeah, I want to get him on here one of these days too. He'd be fun to talk to.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's out in is he in Thailand or Vietnam or somewhere like that?
Yeah, he was in Thailand there for a bit, I think.
Yeah,
is where he was coaching. But yeah, I'm not sure. And you are you're from Grimsby, Northeast Lincolnshire, United Kingdom.
So the best way to describe that, it's kind of like the way that they do the Michigan thing with a hand.
Yep.
Except on the map of England, on the right side, there's a big crack in the map where the estuary comes in. Yeah. And we're under the crack. So it's pretty apt from where I'm from to be underneath the crack. So it's a rough place, but it's home. So
yeah, that's awesome. Before we get going, man, I just want to check in. How do you still have family there, obviously, and friends? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of weird. My sister is pregnant, so she's obviously at high risk.
Yeah.
And she has 2 kids, but they're doing fine. Just self-isolating. They just brought down yesterday that it was, the same as they did in the state of Indiana.
Yeah.
Basically on
I saw that.
House arrest.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I think in England they're not really paying as much attention.
Yeah.
We're kind of a nation of people who do what we want, and we won't. When someone tells, as you know from living with me, when someone tells you to do something, usually the opposite's going to happen. So,
yeah,
they were put in like kind of house arrest yesterday. My dad's actually in quarantine right now because he drives a bus for special needs kids.
Okay.
So, and one of the kids was showing symptoms yesterday, so they quickly got my dad off the bus, sent him home. So my mom actually works for Weight Watchers,
okay.
And she's not allowed to leave the house because of that.
Yeah.
And my brother is he's at home, and he's been made to stay off work also because my dad had been put in quarantine for 2 weeks. So
yeah,
that all kind of happened yesterday. So that house will be crazy once they're going to start losing it with each other pretty quick. So I might have to FaceTime them frequently to just watch it.
Yeah, just so you can be a part of it.
Yeah.
Watch the craziness ensue. Yeah. Well, while we're on that topic, this has nothing to do with our podcast, to be completely honest, but I sat down today. I had this quote that I got sent a few weeks ago, actually, so it's not been too long ago, and it's really fitting to the time that we're going through with COVID-19, and I think I just want to read it. I think it's really good. It's by Ann Landers, and it says, "If I were asked to give what I consider the single most useful bit of advice for all humanity, it would be this: expect trouble as an inevitable part of life, and when it comes, hold your head high, look it squarely in the eye and say, 'I will be bigger than you. You cannot defeat me.' Then repeat to yourself the most comforting words of all: 'This too will pass.'" And I think it's like super fitting, and I just wanted to read that. I sat down to do this podcast to give you a call, and it was sitting right here, and I hadn't read it. It's been sitting here all week and the last few weeks, to be honest, and I read it, and I was like, you know what? That's going to go in this podcast, and so
no, I think it's super apt, and it's something we've been talking around with our guys a lot.
Yeah.
Is instead of seeing this as the challenge that it is, like, it is a challenge.
Yeah.
It is tough. We all know that. So just pointing that out continuously can only breed negativity. Yeah. I'm big into speaking life into things.
Same. Yeah.
I kind of stole it originally from, I think it was Conor McGregor. He's not the best role model necessarily, but
not
speaking
always.
life into things, meaning just if you tell yourself it's a bad situation, it's going to be a bad situation. We've talked to our guys about just what's the positives that can come from all of this.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, all fall, I don't get to see my wife and kids as much as I would like to, especially right now because we're commuting 45 minutes each way.
Yeah.
I'm getting as much time as I can possibly handle with my kids and my wife right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge blessing. That's a huge positive. I just had to do school with them for the last hour.
Yeah.
They're teaching me stuff. but it's a huge blessing that we've all been blessed with right now. And I think if we can start looking at the bright side of this thing, it's probably going to help things pass quicker too.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're right, Patty. And man, it's a lot, you know. It's crazy. Like it's still kind of surreal, and I think it started to hit me, you know, this week that it's kind of a more real thing than it seemed in the beginning, you know. Just because it's like I personally, at this very moment, like, I don't think I know anybody that has it, you know? I mean, I'm sure there's a possibility, or there's a lot of people I know, but, so it's like this thing that we talk about in, like, hyperbole, you know? It's like, it exists, but I don't really know how to, you know? You don't know anything about it other than what you hear, and so it's just odd, it's just weird, and, it's a crazy time to be alive, but here we are, and, we've got the choice to continue to press forward and to hold our heads high and, you know, to fight together throughout this. So, yeah. So anybody out there, if you're listening and you're struggling a little bit, like, we get it. We're all in this together, and reach out. You know, don't hesitate. Reach out to people that you love and the people around you, and you're not alone. And you know, us here at CrazyFaceUno and around the world, we're all in this together. So.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this yesterday. I was on a run, and actually, I went on Instagram Live and put my entire run on there.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. But I was thinking, man, imagine this 100 years ago. There's no technology.
Crazy, right?
And I can't just FaceTime my family because I miss them.
Right.
and still see it's the stuff like that. I mean, self-isolation is terrible. It's not a good thing, whatever.
Yeah.
But at least we have the technology to still visibly
stay connected,
see people in the face, you know?
Absolutely.
That's huge.
It is. Dude, you mentioned being on a run. I wrote this down. I know we haven't even talked about what you're up to these days, but I saw the other day, I think it was maybe Saturday, you ran a half marathon with some friends?
Yeah, so...
Bro, your time was insane. Are you kidding me?
So, I mean, you know me well enough, having lived with me, that if I'm going to do something, then the only way I know how to do it is to do my very best and be all in and invested. So, I ran, actually, I used to be the head coach at Goshen College,
right.
And I became really good friends with the distance coach, and he got me into distance running probably 3 or 4 years ago, probably 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And he's my coach now, and I've got some pretty lofty goals as far as qualifying for the London Marathon next year and trying to get in the elite field.
Nice.
That was my first. I've ran a half marathon distance before in practice and things, but I've never all out ran one.
Yeah.
And it was on a gravel trail, and I ran with a couple of his cross country guys who were in town.
Nice.
He called it the COVID-19 13.1 event, and we stayed 6 feet apart the whole time. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. You were always super fit, though. I mean, all through, playing soccer with you or playing soccer, and you were always fit. You were always at the top of the heap, whenever we did long runs or anything. So
I think it's just because I enjoyed it. It's one of those things where the more I took a lot from Gidman, I think if we looked at him as a whole, there's things that we wouldn't take as far as the football side. But when you look at his enthusiasm for life and how he could, I mean, you remember that first year when he'd just go running with us? Yeah. And I still do all the fitness tests on my guys. And
post practice though, I think
it
was always a little intense.
So
yeah, for sure. And it's the buy-in, I've been a coach too. I actually this is the first year I haven't coached wrestling. And so I jumped in, and it's the same with that sport. It's one of those that it's hands-on. You got to get involved. You got to get in there. But I think you gain respect from your athletes and from the people that you're leading, And when you jump in there, you definitely gain a little respect and hold that. I don't know. Even throughout wrestling, I would do the same thing as far as if I'm asking you to, tighten your diet in and to be smart and healthy about what you're eating. I'm going to go home and do the same thing, I'm not going to ask you to do something that I'm not willing to do. And I don't know, I whether I tell my athletes that I'm doing the same thing, or not, I am. And I think that's the key of, hey, we're in this together again, as a coach, and you believe in them and you want them to believe in you. Yeah. That leads us into, I
think kids don't want to be told what to do. They want to be shown.
Yeah, exactly.
And they want to know what you're doing. So if you show them, then it's different, I can just imagine you with a kid in a headlock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you just squeeze a little extra, just be just so they know I can do it,
Yeah.
So I want to say your numbers first before I jump into anything else. You ran your half marathon in a 1:17:25.
Yeah.
And that's a sub mile, 5:54 per mile, which blows my mind, dude. But that's well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate well done. I'm excited to see how this transpires and watch you qualify for the London Marathon and all that. That's gonna be awesome. So we'll stay in touch and keep an eye on that.
For sure.
We kind of jumped into coaching. You are the head men's soccer coach at Grace College now.
Yep.
So you said Goshen. So you've jumped right into you started off out of college. You joined the Bethel soccer program, correct?
Yep. So once I was done playing in college, I went overseas and I played a little bit.
Okay.
And then I came back because I actually did 5 years because I was also running track in college. So I came back and I met my now wife.
Yeah.
I was offered the opportunity to go play overseas. I went, and then I just missed her and thought, this is stupid. Why am I over here doing this when I can be at home with, with someone I love? So
yeah.
Then we got engaged, and I definitely wasn't going to leave.
Right.
Once we got married, so I took 2 years off playing. I basically did nothing. I was coaching at Bethel, helping Chicago.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. There was definitely a void there of missing football. So Callie encouraged me to go. Actually, remember Cody Troyer? Cody was a goalkeeper.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
He would have been a freshman or senior or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that name, though. Yeah.
When he was graduating, he wanted to try and play. So with my agent, I ended up trying to take him overseas to go and, try and get a contract. And they said, well, why don't you come, bring your boots, you can jump in and train with the guys, you can come help coach. And
yeah.
Because I wasn't interested in playing because we were going to get married.
Right.
We were due to get married in the July, and this was in the February. I went over there, and then you know me, like my boots came on, and all of a sudden, now I'm playing. Now it's like real, and I'm over here.
Boots came on, mouth opened up, and game on.
Yeah. So it was crazy that I wasn't looking to play. I had no interest in it. I actually ended up getting offered a contract.
Nice.
In Wilmington, North Carolina, which was the league below the MLS, and I remember calling Callie and saying, well, they've just offered me a contract. She said, what are you doing? She's crying on the phone. I'm like, not happy crying, like, we just bought a house.
Yeah.
So that whole crazy thing happened. I actually ended up renting the house to two of my college buddies.
Nice.
And it ended up being a really good situation. So our first year of marriage was spent in North Carolina, just us two and the dog. And then we decided to have our first kid. And it was just so much travel, to be honest. Like,
yeah,
I miss playing. I still miss playing right now. But it was so much travel in the U.S. And I grew up without a dad in the picture, really. And then my stepdad came in the picture, and we didn't have a very good relationship up until probably, when I was over here in college, probably 2008, 2009. So yeah, my main objective is being a good husband and a good dad. And once I realized we were going to have a baby, that was a no-brainer. We were coming home to Indiana, and I was going to spend time with the family, and I was going to do my best to be a good dad. So trying. Don't know if it's working, but that was kind of how my playing career ended. So, and then from there, that summer I was offered the job at Goshen College. It was a part-time job. Yeah. And then I spent 5 years there. So this was my first full year now at Grace.
Wow, that's crazy. What did you stepping in at Goshen as your first, kind of head coaching position or whatever? What did you learn? What did you learn those 5 years? You still there?
Went out. Yeah.
Losing you. It's kind of breaking up here.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
There we go. So.
Oh, you're gone again. It's kind of just cutting in and out, Patty.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's clear.
Okay, so I kind of learned a lot more since I left Goshen. I think having reflected on what the program was like when I started to what it is now. So, I started and that job was part-time. It was literally $15,000 a year. Yeah. We were having a baby and had a house, and we were living off that. So I don't know how we did it. I do. God was looking after us, but it was a very blank slate. And I was taken over from only the fourth ever coach. Tavi was there for 13 years. And all of it part-time, basically. So we kind of put a program together that's now full-time. The coach there now is a friend of mine, and he's full-time.
Which just brings in better coaches, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it makes it, if you can live off of the income, it's a lot less stressful. So
yeah, for sure.
Callie, my wife, coaches volleyball. She got her first head high school coach job. Okay. That's the time I got that job. And it was right down the road, so it worked out great. She would bring Ollie to practice after I would get done at, say, 6 o'clock. Yeah. And she would go to her game, and I would feed him, and then we'd go watch her game together, and then we'd go home, and it was super unique, and it was pretty cool. So I think the biggest...
Oh, we lost you again, Patty.
This is terrible.
It's all right. There you are. You were saying the biggest thing was...
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've learned since leaving is just that you don't really know your own situation. You don't know the situation or the difficulty of your situation until you get out and you get into a better one.
Yeah.
And my situation at Grace is so much better in many ways. And that's not really a knock on Goshen. Goshen is what it is. And, you know, we just did our best with what we had. And we did some really good stuff, did some cool stuff. We really changed the program. And now hopefully they can kick on from there and, you know, and I can enjoy the new experience at Grace.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really cool because, and for people listening, if you're not familiar with these names, so we both went to Bethel College, now Bethel University, out of Mishawaka, Indiana. And our rivals, you know, are people that were within our conference were Grace and Goshen and, you know, some of these different schools. So it's kind of cool and interesting. I'm sure there's some interesting like feels whenever you first stepped on the pitch, you know, with at Goshen or at Grace now. I mean, I'm sure it feels a little bit more normal now that you're at Grace, but you know, when you have those like deep-seated rivalry kind of things, you know, when you're like, oh, we got to beat Grace, we got to beat the other Christian college, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know I left so I was coaching high school, you know, just volunteer coach for the first, you know, several years, and then kind of just I found my way onto a team and kind of worked my way up to co-head coach and was co-head coaching. And it's the same when you switch schools, and it was within our conference, you know, kind of a local rivalry that I went to the school. And yeah, it's weird when you like step on the mat or, you know, just compete against a school that you used to coach for or be a part of. It's a weird feeling. And the competitiveness between you and I'm sure it's like, all right, we got to crush these guys, you know, like.
Yeah, for sure. It was interesting when there was some kind of weird stat that, cause I scored my first ever college goal at Goshen College.
Oh, nice.
And there was some weird stat out there about, we'd won 1-0 against Bethel in the first time we played them out there.
Nice.
That was obviously a super weird, and I've not beaten Thiago since then.
Yeah.
I'm like 1-7 against Thiago, which is a nightmare. But there was a weird stat that the last time Bethel had won there was when I scored that goal.
Oh, wow.
That was like 2006. So
yeah, Goshen was always a big rival.
Well, they were good back then. Yeah. I was out when I was running this weekend, my half marathon. Tony Jansen was their big striker back in the day, and he was actually out there jogging around at the same place I was doing my half marathon. So
nice.
He's still knocking around in the air, and they were really good back then. So
yeah,
but it's all changed. Like the whole league and everything has changed so much since we were in school.
The world's changed. I mean, everything's changed. I mean, I noticed that. I mean, yeah, so many things change. You know, rules change, like just how you practice, how you go about things. Yeah, I mean. It feels like we were babies back then. I don't know if it feels that way for you, but I just feel like, man, I've grown up so much from since 2010 to 2006 to 2010. Woof, man.
We didn't know anything, and we thought we knew everything.
Oh yeah, we thought we knew everything.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, dude, let's throw it back. Let's go to childhood. Let's dive in there. How would you describe your childhood? What was childhood like for you?
So, growing up in Grimsby, I don't know. I always say it was a tough place to grow up, but when I was there, I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
It just was what it was. That was life. I could tell you so many crazy stories about at the end of the street, for example, there was a pub called the Longship. Okay. And people getting thrown through the window and coming down the street with a bloody face. I like soccer's obviously a big part of my life. I was taught to juggle a soccer ball by a drunk guy with a wine bottle in his hand. And he saw me playing in the street and he was like, no, do it this way. Yeah. And I still remember those lessons. Cars crashing into walls on like Christmas Eve and that have been stolen. But when I was a kid, like those things are just fun things. Like, it sounds crazy to say they were fun, but that was how we grew up. That was normal. That was life.
Yeah.
And I loved my childhood for the most part, as far as, you know, just hanging out with friends and playing in the street. I learned to play football in the street. And that was just normal.
Right.
I mean, the home life was different. My real dad left when I think I was 3 or 4. And I remember the day he left. I remember because we had a bunch of like plastic golf clubs and tennis rackets, toys, me and my sister.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember swinging for him with a golf club as he was leaving. And so I was pretty crazy even at 3 years old, I think. But I remember him leaving, and I remember him like coming in and out maybe once, twice. You know, I remember arguments at the front door.
Yeah.
Him saying, you know, why can't I come home and all those things. But other than that, like, my real dad he's not been part of my life whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because my sister, she still speaks to him every now and again, but I've had no contact since, I would say, 4 or 5. Sure. No contact whatsoever.
How do you feel about that now? I mean, as you are a little bit older, you're a father yourself, like,
yeah.
Does that affect you? Does that play with your mind, or like, have you just accepted it and kind of moved on, or how does that affect you today?
I've had a few moments like in my life where I've really wished I could hear my dad say, "I'm proud of you." Like, yeah. And it's not, and you know me as well. Like, I'm not the soft, emotional guy, really. But all of us, I think, have a basic instinct to want to please our family members, like our fathers. My stepdad came into my life when I was 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a good relationship up until college, as I said earlier. But so I've had those moments as I've been older. And my stepdad, I mean, he's amazing. Yeah. He's one of my best buddies now. He's my best man at my wedding. That's awesome. I mean, that story in itself is a big story of just forgiveness and redemption. And
yeah. He
grew up without a dad, and so we have a similar story. And he didn't know what he was doing when he was raising us. Like, he's first, you know, he's 24-year-old taking on 2 kids that weren't his.
Sure.
He had no idea what he was doing. But now, like, our relationship is awesome. But yeah, my real dad, he was an alcoholic. He was abusive. And I'm lucky enough that I had a strong enough mom to say, "No, enough's enough. You're not going to be in our life. We'll do it without you." So
yeah,
I guess I have like 5 siblings I've never even met.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's done a better job with them than he did with me and my sister. But
sure.
I think one of the things for me is just, I don't hold any resentment there whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think in many ways, like, the thing that I think makes me successful is that I have that chip on my shoulder. And I think a lot of it comes from not having a dad, and always thinking at some point he's going to ring me and he might apologize, or he might say, "Oh, man, I wish this," or at the very least, "I've kind of been keeping track of you and I'm proud of what you did." And I don't think I need that, but I think, and like I said, it's a basic instinct that we all have.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day,
I think you're right. I mean,
right?
I think it is innate within us. I think there's just something that I mean, look at, you know, I don't know, look at kids that have been adopted and they grew up in beautiful, wonderful families, right? And they don't want to change how they grew up, but they still want to know who that person is. I remember when I was going through the divorce with my mom and my dad, I was pissed at my dad. You know, I was pissed at him, and a whole lot of different emotions going on in a, you know, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, like, man, it's just a lot. But I just remember the thing that changed my like mindset was there's nothing I can do to change the fact that my dad is my dad. You know, like, I can add a dad, you know, a stepdad or whatever, but like, he is always going to be my dad. There's nothing I can change. Like, I can't, my genetics, my DNA is because of him, you know, and I can choose from this point forward to have a relationship or be a part of his life, you know, and have this, or I can not, but there's nothing I can do to change that fact. And for whatever reason, that was the big, like, monumental thing. I'll never forget it. I know where I was. Like I can picture all of that, and it's I don't know. That was like a game changer for me. But I think it is. I think you're right. I think it's this innate thing, and it's not that you're not happy and satisfied, but there's still a part of you that probably just wonders,
Yeah, and I think the biggest difference probably between your experience and mine is you had that existing relationship.
Correct.
So
right.
There's no anger from me towards my dad because he's my dad in blood.
Yeah.
But that's really it. There's no animosity because thankfully he wasn't around long enough to do damage.
Right.
Like that was the big thing for me.
And kudos to your mom. I mean, that's like,
yeah,
for being that strong woman to say, no, enough's enough. And I'm going to look out for my family and for my kids, and look at you now. I mean,
Yeah. And like I say, like me and my stepdad had a really rough time. Like there's a lot of kind of abusive things going on in the house. But now, like I ring him nearly every day. He's one of my best mates, and
yeah, that's so cool.
I give him grief about it all the time, but he's a good man.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
And he's my
too.
dad at the end of the day. Like he is my dad.
I know for me, like both my parents are remarried, and so I mean, for me, it's like, man, I'm grateful for them just for the sheer fact that they love my parents.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones that, like, man, it's a breath of fresh air. Like I know that they're taken care of, or I know that they've got someone to like look after them and to be a part of their life, and I think that's huge. So for me, that's like it's a blessing, and I love them both. I mean, the relationships are different between the two of my like stepmom and dad, but I love them both because of who they are in my family's life, and my parents' life. So, it's huge. Yeah, and the other thing, like you mentioned, you didn't know any different, and that's a common thing I've actually heard, and a lot of people have said, and it's the same for everybody, really, right? As a child, like we don't know any different than what we grew up with, but it's just fun to look back and kind of think about that, and to look on, I don't know, like the stories, like you said, like learning to juggle for the first time, or like learning, you saw somebody thrown out of a window, and that's crazy.
Well, I always say normal is a relative word, right?
It is. Like,
normal is whatever you've experienced the most. So,
for sure.
And just for me, I mean, I experienced a lot of things that people would think would be abnormal. But I think it shapes you. It shapes you into who you are, and I think I wouldn't change any of it for the world. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's no surprise you are an athlete. You grew up in playing football, soccer. European football, and did you have other interests as a child outside of athletics and soccer?
As a kid, no, none whatsoever. Yeah. It was all I did. I mean, if I go home now, there's a sign on the wall still to this day that says no ball games, because we used to just pound the ball against this wall again and again and again all day, and the old people just got sick of it and got the council to put a sign up. So that's literally all we did. If we moved streets, it was because we'd been kicked out of the one that we were in, and we would just move into a garage in a back alley that was now the goal. Yeah. So that was really all I did. I don't remember being interested in anything else.
Yeah.
I wasn't even, probably up until I was in my teenage years, I didn't even want to go hang out with friends just to go hang out. There was no video games or any of those things. Like, we just played football. That was it. It's kind of boring,
Yeah.
I don't have any other good stories other than football,
Yeah. I used to do the same thing. I remember my mom would always come out and be like, "Can you stop kicking the ball against the house?" Or,
Yeah.
Our garage when I was growing up was converted into like a living room space. But I'd bounce off the like garage wall, the outside garage wall, and it would like knock things off the wall inside. So I'd always get in trouble. But yeah, classic.
I'm kind of sad. Like, that a lot of kids in this country don't have that experience. That's the thing. I think that's the biggest single factor why soccer's further behind here than it should be. It's developed a lot, but I mean, my kid's out here every day blasting against my garage door, and I think it's going to be good for him.
I think it's also like there's just a lot of options in the United States, and in other places it's not that there isn't, but it's like you're limited. you know?
Yeah, for
and it's like, I don't know. I think that plays a big factor into some of that. What did you say you wanted to be when you grew up?
A footballer. Yeah. Boring. I just wanted to be a footballer.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting, like, once you make that a reality, my next dream was to be a good dad and a good husband. And then obviously occupationally I wanted to be a college coach. So it's like, I think that's why I come up with these crazy things like marathons, because I need something else to be another dream. If I accomplish something, I don't want to just sit in it.
Yeah.
Because I think you get stagnant.
Yeah.
So I come up with these crazy things of, you know, now I'm a bow hunter and I want to go on these big trips out west, and now I want to run marathons and not just complete them, but beat good people. So I think I'm still searching for that next big dream, and then hopefully I accomplish those and I can look for something else. My wife hates it, but she's stuck with it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that that's like you. I mean, just competitive. You're an athlete. That's like, you know, that's just who you are. And I find myself that same way. I struggle to, like right now, so my wife and I live in South Florida, and beach volleyball has become the thing that, one, it's amazing because we both get to do it together. My wife played volleyball growing up, you know, and so we get to go to the beach, and it's our friends group. That's the people we hang out with. It's the things we do. And but like I just started learning, you know, like 3 months ago. I never really played volleyball, you know, like, and so, but I'm kind of obsessed with it now with that, you know, and kind of that's my thing. I'm like, oh, like I've been doing this the whole time, and I need to, you know, analyzing my own play when we're playing like shitty beach volleyball and drinking beers, you know, like,
and I don't think that'll ever leave you, you know, like that mentality of, I just want to be good at, if I'm going to do it, be good at it. Volleyball is a huge part of our family. My wife was an awesome volleyball player in college, and she's a great coach. She still coaches club, and it's kind of fun. The kids will go to her practice every now and again and just, you know, help shag balls, and we love that. I mean, our kids they're going to be gym/field rats, and they just love sports. And the competitive side, you know, the fiery competitive side, it's what drives me nuts about my kids, because they're exactly like me and Callie. And we have to stop and remember they're like that because they're ours. You know?
Right. Yeah, there's a fire that's like always competitive, and it's funny because I'm super competitive, but my competitiveness has changed into, at least with volleyball right now, is it's been like, I don't really care if we win. 90% of the time, like when we play on Saturdays with a big group of people, it's like I don't even keep score. Like I don't care who wins or loses. It's like I just don't want to mess up, you know. Like I want to be at the top of my game, you know, like improving and getting better, which is kind of funny. But which is why I like running, because it's just you and the clock. And what everyone else does has no bearing on you. See, and that's what I love about wrestling, because it's kind of the same. It's like you get out what you put in. And I think that's why I fell in love with that sport. I've really struggled to get into running. It's something I've like started to be a little bit more excited about and enjoy, I guess. But I've had to tame my competitive side, because I'm the same way, where I go every single time I go for a run, I'm like trying to beat my score from the previous, you know, which is problematic sometimes because it causes injuries and different things. I've had a lot of issues with my, I don't know if you're probably familiar because you've been running, but like runner's knee, like
for sure.
And
tendonitis.
Yeah, dude, in my knees. And so I've just like cut out running. I just do like elliptical nowadays, but I want to get into running. I've got a goal that I want to run a marathon, and not for time or anything like that, like you, but for me, it's like I just hate running, to be completely honest. So I think it's always been a means to an end for me.
Yeah, you sports. Needed to do it for your sports.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so I just would do it, but now I've just tried to change that mindset of being like, you know what, it's actually pretty enjoyable to throw a podcast on and go for a jog. And I love like Map My Run, where I can just like go and jog for whatever, and it tells me my times and tells me whatever, and I don't have to keep track of a specific like track. It just says like, oh, you've ran a mile, you know, and I like that.
Yeah, the technology is really helpful.
For sure.
And a lot of it is just, like, for me, I throw on a podcast. I listen to the Dad Tired podcast.
What is it?
Dad Tired.
Dad Tired. I'm going to write that down.
It's really good. And it's just, basically it's a Christian guy, and he's a pastor, and
cool.
Just talking about all different things that you'll go through as being a dad and being a husband. But I go on my long, easy runs, and I just put that baby on.
Yeah.
Turn my watch over. It's clocking where I'm going, and I'll come back in 2 hours, and I've listened to about 6 podcasts.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's relaxing. Like, I tell people that's my meditation time.
For sure.
It's just time to decompress.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. It's kind of the same thing for me, and it always feels amazing afterwards. But it's sometimes, at least for me, like, it's brutal to get me out sometimes. Where I'm like, I can, like, wake up in the morning with the intention to go straight out of the gates, like, to the gym, and then I look at my clock and it's like 3:00 and I've procrastinated, and I'm like, all right, now I gotta go. Like, here we go. Like, let's go. But it's funny. What kind of a student were you growing up? Like, if you look at adolescence, middle school, high school, I don't know how that translates to how you grew up, but in the UK. But
I was a good enough student to separate myself to kind of the top end of schooling without doing my best. I would say if there was one area of my entire life where I didn't give my best, it would be academics.
Yeah.
Because football was always my goal. So
yeah.
In England, it's like something really low, like only 20% of the country go to university.
Okay.
And the way our testing goes is we do these things called GCSEs. If you get a certain level of those that are high enough, you then go into things called A-levels. So it's something like 30% go on to A-levels and then 20% make it onto university. Can you hear me?
Yep.
And then, so I did well enough to get to the level where I could go to university. And then obviously I never ended up going because I came over here. And then in college was the same story. I did enough to get by. Actually, I don't know if you remember, but my first year I actually got a record low of a 0.3 GPA.
I do remember
in my
that.
first semester. And I passed all the classes with A's and B's.
Yeah.
But what used to grate me is they would make me go to their class. So me being me, I was like, I'm going to get all A's.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to go. And I'm just going to basically say, that's your fault because your class is too easy. Well, I did those things and then they failed me anyway. So then I had to quickly realize that, no, you're going to go to class. And I had to take summer school that year, which was tough. But I had a really good experience with it. Mary Crandon was the professor, and I took a Shakespeare class, and I love that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, just weird. But
I remember you liking that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and
Mary Lee Crandon. I remember her too. I think she was my sister, English teacher.
Yeah, English probably just like written comma or something like that.
Yeah.
But I love that class, and honestly, like, that got me a little bit more fired up to at least be average. I would say, put in enough work, going to class and doing the things I needed to.
Sure.
And then, my transcripts are very weird because most kids are able to come in, they do well because parents are on them their freshman, sophomore year, and then parents relax a little bit and then their grades kind of slow off.
Yeah.
That's the trend that I see. You start out at 3.5 and you graduate with your 3.0.
Yeah.
And
that's an interesting observation. I never thought about that.
Yeah, mine was the opposite. I started out so low that I had to work hard to be eligible.
Yeah.
And then I really, probably once me and Callie started dating, I actually found joy in getting good grades. It was really weird. I added a business minor because I was going to stay on and do track for my 5th year.
Yeah.
And I was taking these accounting classes with no intent of being an accountant, but I loved it. Like, it was kind of cool to get that praise of, hey, you did good on this assignment, and I'd never experienced that before.
Yeah. And
then now, actually, academics played a really big role in me getting this job at Grace. I was looking around, and I want to be able to turn around to my kids when I'm older and say I have a master's degree. for no other reason than when they tell me, Dad, I don't want to go to school, it's stupid, I'm going to be a basketball player, or whatever they say.
Yeah.
Well, I hated school, and I've got a master's, so once you get to my level, then you can not do it anymore. Yeah. That's my only reason for getting a master's.
But it's huge. It really is. It's like, it's raising the ceiling, you know.
Yeah.
And it's the same for, you know, I've had different women and different, you know, ladies on the podcast, but it's the same for them too, you know, in so many ways. It's like, what led people to chase the career or go after their goals or seek more education was, well, man, I'm the first person to ever be, you know, to go to college in my family, or, you know, my mom showed me the way, you know, or kind of breaking that ceiling and kind of raising it and saying like, hey, look, like, kids, like, you can do more than you think you can, and there is more possible, and there's a lot of things out there, and you've got options. It's just chase it and go after it if that's what you want.
Yeah, and I think there's just something to be said for doing, even if education is not my favorite thing, it's very ironic that now my job is in higher education.
Right.
And I'm surrounded by my whole wife's family, they're all teachers, essentially. My sister-in-law, she's got 4 kids, and she's doing her PhD. She's almost done with her PhD.
Wow.
And she's amazing. And when you look at the work that she puts in with all that she has going on in her life, it's like, yeah, I can do a master's. I can figure that out.
Yeah. So. Yeah, for sure. It's a discipline. It's like you're disciplining yourself in different fields, different areas.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, it's always, you know, the physical discipline, like physically, put me up against whoever, you know, like I'll push myself for sure. And I may not win, but I'll give you everything. And I know how to be disciplined, you know, in that world. Mental discipline is a whole nother thing though, huh? And,
yeah, for sure.
Like being disciplined to do your work that you need to get done, or, you know, your schoolwork or whatever that looks like. It's a whole nother ball game. Yeah,
for sure.
Did, you know, growing up, like still thinking maybe, I don't know, you know, a younger pre-college, like, did you ever get in trouble? Did you ever like get into mischief?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, again, where I grew up, mischief is, there's definitely levels to it. So, I mean, as a kid, I was just so focused on football, and I was scared to death of getting in trouble with my stepdad. So I didn't really push too many boundaries at home. I was a pretty good boy. My mom calls me Golden Boy, still to this day. So, but outside of the home, when I get a little bit older, you know, my mid to late teens, we'd go out and we'd get in a little bit of trouble, and we'd experiment with, you know, going and thinking we were tough guys, drinking some beers and, you know, doing those types of things. Sure. And one of the games we used to play, well, a couple of games, it's called garden creeping. So in England, most of the houses are row houses, right? And then they have gardens that are attached, and they have little fences that are maybe 4 feet high in the backyard. So one of the things we do is we'd jump the first fence, we'd go and we'd bang like crazy on the back window of these houses until we see the people coming. Then we'd jump the next fence, bang the next house, jump, and it'd be like hurdles, but we'd be jumping over, knocking on the doors and getting them to come chase us. So we used to do garden creeping quite a lot. One of the other things we would do, which was really funny, and like now I think if my kids were doing this, I would go crazy. But
yeah, right.
It was normal to us. We used to get like tennis balls or small pebbles and stuff like that, and we'd wait, you know, for policemen or police vans to come around the corner or whatever, and we'd just launch tennis balls or rocks or whatever at them just to get them to chase us. Yeah. And then we'd start running to the backyard, and that was like fun.
Yeah. So, we used to do stuff like that too, like growing up. It was the same thing. I mean, mine was a little more like Midwest, you get it, but like we called it corning. So we'd like shuck corn and we'd like throw corn at cars. Like,
yeah.
And then you'd want them to chase you, and like you just like run into the cornfield and nobody would ever catch you, you know?
It's funny, we used to do it with campus safety in college too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep, we did. And what else did we do? We did stupid stuff like that. I did when I was I was like elementary school. I don't even know how old I was. Probably like 2nd, 3rd grade. But it was like a snowstorm. There's this big like ravine and me and a buddy, we'd go down there and we made like just a shit ton of snowballs. Yeah. And we waited till cars came by on this like road. They're probably going like 45, 50 mile an hour, so it probably wasn't that safe, but we'd like throw snowballs at them. And my dad was a pastor, so it's in like the parking lot of this church. And so like they'd hit the brakes and we'd take off running and like run into the church. And then we'd like lock the door behind us, and then, you know, people would like pull in and like look in the windows, and we're like hiding behind these pillars, you know, like they had no idea. So yeah, we were a little shit sometimes too.
I would say I probably became a prankster having gone to college as I've gotten older. So maybe it's because I missed out on those things.
Yeah.
And now I'm known for being a prankster. So
nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny, like the things that you think about when you read it. You brought that up. I haven't thought about that in so long, of like throwing snowballs at cars and whatnot.
Yeah,
it's so funny. So you graduate high school. This is always really interesting to me of how, you know, some of you international guys, you know, from the UK, like found your way to Bethel.
Yeah.
And what kind of led you that direction? What was that process like for you?
So I had no intention of coming. Really, it was just my mom. She basically set the whole thing up. She somewhere heard about kids going over to America and going to university, and no one in my family had ever gone to university. I'm still the only one with a degree. So she had just got this thing fixed in her head, and I think she knew that I needed to be away. Me and my stepdad's relationship was really bad at that time. Yeah. And the problem was I was getting big enough where the physical like intimidation wasn't going to work for much longer. Right. So I think she knew that I needed to get away, and she knew that the only way I would do it is if football was involved. Sure. So I was playing with some semi-pro teams, and you know, I was with the professional clubs as I was younger, but there was a lot going on at home, and I think she just saw this opportunity. So she started looking into things. I ended up going to we call them tryouts. Tryouts. And I would go to the local one, and I would do well. And then I would go to the regional one, and I would do well. And she used my ego against me, like any mom would, to get what she wants. So she's just go show them how good you are. You don't have to go, but just go show them how good you are. You don't have to go to America. Right. So I just kept going, and then I got to the national level, and we ended up in Scotland, and I did really well there. I got a bunch of offers from different schools, and the only question my mum asked me, the only part of my involvement in it was, other than playing the football and getting looked at, was which coach did you like the most? And there was a couple. I never looked at a map ever. I never looked where I was going, because in my mind it wasn't happening. I was never going to go. Yeah. And Gidman was over there, Greg Gidman. Yeah. And if you know Gidman, you know, which we both do, his personality is infectious. Like that's the one thing.
He's eccentric for sure.
For sure.
I've reached out to him a few times, and we haven't been able to get him on, but
he'd be great.
Yeah, I would love to get him on the podcast. We haven't been able to figure out a time and sort things out, but one of these days.
Yeah, and so I chose, and basically the two that I came down to, there was one guy called George Kuntz. He was a 6'8" guy from UC Irvine. Yeah. And if you ever look on the internet, I would never have chosen Bethel College if I did that. Right. Because UC Irvine is an amazing school. Yeah. But I really like Greg, and I like that his mom was English. Okay. And he was Canadian, so he had that in common with me. And I just said, well, I like that Greg Gidman guy, and that was it. That was my involvement. And then before I know it, I'm going up an escalator at Manchester Airport, and I'm on my way to the US. Wow. And when I was going up the escalator, I can still see it in my head now. I turned back, and it was like one of those movies where you turn back, and there's like that solitary tear going down your face.
Like, what the hell am I about to do?
There was no tears coming out, but my face was like that crying face. And I was just like, I'm going. Like, I can't get out of this. Yeah. It all kind of happened so fast because I wasn't involved. So, again, it was the best decision my mom ever made.
What did you think when your mom told you? Do you remember? Do you remember like that moment?
No, because she was so sly about it. Like, she was just so sneaky. Like, it wasn't ever planned out. Like, it was just, she did it all. And I was just I respected and loved my mum so much that I would do what she would ask me to do.
Sure.
And she just, I couldn't tell you that process because she just did it all.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got on the plane and I'd calmed down and I was on, I landed, then it was different. But even when I landed, like, this tells you everything about Gidman. We spent 3 hours going around Chicago because he'd found a wallet in the airport and he wanted to give it back to the people he found. 3 hours.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I'm like, I just want to eat. He got me Wendy's, and I asked for a large drink. I said, I'm so thirsty, I need a large drink. And then I realized what large meant in America. Because it wouldn't fit in the cup holder. So we're driving around it was like the projects in Chicago too. It was a rough area, and he's knocking door to door. Hey, is this your wallet? Do you know this guy? And I'm thinking, what is going on? The whole thing's crazy. But she was just so sly, and she got me over there, and it was the best thing anyone's ever done for me, for sure.
Yeah. So, and I know most people I've talked to, and we've had conversations about this in the past, but most people didn't really know what they were getting themselves into when they came to Bethel. Like, that nobody really talked about who it was, like what Bethel was, and like what they.
Yeah, no.
When did you first kind of learn about what you were getting yourself into, and what were your thoughts then?
Well, there's a couple of things. Like, I never knew any of the faith piece. I never knew what I was like, and that's really impacted me as a college coach. Like, now I'm talking to kids every day. I'm talking to a kid right now from England, and actually I have 4 coming this year, and they know about the faith piece. They know what it's like. I don't want kids to get here and be shocked.
Yeah.
And that's what we were experiencing. We were super shocked.
Yeah, all of you guys, like you, Aaron, Horton, John, Timmy.
Yeah, and Tabs.
I forgot about him.
So, yeah,
Peter.
So my first experience of the faith piece was when we stayed in preseason in that house in Granger. You were there, right? At the same time. Were you there then? I don't know. But anyway, we came in August and we stayed in this empty house.
Oh yeah, I was there for sure. Yeah, that's when I started. I started at the same time you did.
Yeah, so I remember Gidman had it all in the basement, and I was upside down on the stairs, and I was just around the corner so he couldn't see me, and I was just trying to nod off and sleep. And he was doing his devotion. I'd never heard that word before. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And this is part of my testimony. I remember him banging on the wall and talking about God's knock on your door. And I woke up and was like, what is going on? and I just remember him talking about God knocking on your door. And when he starts knocking, you're not going to be able to avoid it. You're going to have to face, which direction you want to go. And then that evening, I caught Jason Richardson, an Irish friend of mine, under a blanket reading a book. So I went in there and I was like, what are you doing reading? It's 3:00 in the morning. He was reading his Bible.
Okay.
Well, we didn't know where he was at with his faith, and he knew where we would be at, most likely coming from England, not having any faith, and he didn't want to put us off. So I'd caught him reading his Bible. I made fun of him a little bit, and then that was really my first faith interaction. But those two things, the knock on the door and Jason reading his Bible, because I love Jason, he's awesome, and I really respected him. So.
Because he was was he just a year older than us?
Yeah, a year older than us.
Yeah.
So that really impacted me. That's a huge part of my testimony, those two things. And I wasn't ready, to accept Christ and all those things back then. But just those little subtle things where it was definitely God hinting at me, like, there's something more than just football and just yourself.
Yeah.
But then I remember then they sat us all in what was the other chapel called? The small chapel.
Shiloh?
No, that
was
the one where they do Vespers, the Wednesday night one. But they sat us all in there.
The nursing auditorium. That's where we had.
Yeah. And they talking about this lifestyle covenant, and they would pass these papers around, and you had to sign this covenant. And I'm like, this is a cult. Like, what is going on? Am I going to see people coming in white hoods and all this stuff? Like, it was crazy.
Dude, I didn't know about the covenant thing either, to be fair.
Which is crazy because you're at least from this state.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, to be fair, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, so the story goes is I never actually signed it, because when I signed that paper, they just passed them down to the end and took them in. I signed it Mickey Mouse. That was literally what I wrote on that piece of paper.
That's funny.
So they could never legally hold me to it. But those are the experiences. And then obviously you go to chapel the first time. And then that is like, it took a while. It took a while for us to. The good thing, though, was there was 5 of us going through the exact same thing.
Right, yeah, you had that camaraderie and that, like...
I was probably the most open-minded about it.
I'd say, yeah.
But
Peter and John were not.
Now. No, I remember John being in the back of chapel with that water bottle full of vodka.
That sounds
about right. In the middle of chapel. So, but I think because I was open-minded enough about it, that stood me in good stead, and I was it. And I had some really good friends. I never really hung out with all the soccer guys as much as I would hang out with other people. And I think that was really good for me as well.
Yeah. It's interesting, and it's interesting, Patty, because you and I are probably like switched. I don't know, like I don't believe the same things anymore, and like I've changed, and I'm happy, and I'm like happy to see you where you are as well. And like, I think, I don't know, it's cool. It's like we all have our path to who we are today. And I don't know that there's a right or wrong necessarily. I know that's questionable in a lot of different circles, but I don't know. I think it's cool to see, that process kind of change and like see who you are today. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah. So. And it was very gradual over years, and honestly, my whole perspective was changed through relationships with people.
Right.
So whether you have faith or you don't, whether your faith is Buddhist or Christianity or even an atheist, the big thing that I want people that I'm around is to be able to articulate what their faith is or isn't.
Yeah.
And live that out. Like, don't say you're something and act another way. If you want to be an atheist, be the best one you can possibly, because at least I can respect that you have thought about your opinions and your views.
Yep.
And it's the same for me. Like, I definitely don't fit the typical model, if you want to say that, as a Christian. Yeah. I'm all tatted up. I speak my mind. But in my eyes, my God is... He wasn't the guy... A lot of people think he's this guy holding doors open and, go ahead, everyone first. Yeah, that's true. There was moments of that.
Yeah.
But he was also flipping tables when he needed to get his message across. And,
exactly.
And that's what I want to encourage my players to do, and my kids to their faith needs to be their faith, whatever that looks like.
Jesus didn't lack passion.
No,
and,
for sure.
And I think that's huge. And yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, there's still, don't get me wrong, like I have so many, my core values are, based so much from my upbringing and being in the church and all of that. But yeah, I've just changed and I'm okay with that. And I completely agree. It's like, seek truth, if you're seeking truth, if you are Christian, if you do believe in the Christian faith, then man, that's all you can do. And it doesn't matter, you're seeking truth and God will find you, and like you said, you have to answer when the knock comes. But that's fundamental to the Christian faith. So it should be, if that's what you're seeking and that's kind of who you are and that's the path you're taking, then it should be okay.
Well, and for me, I'm never going to save anyone, right? So if I believe everyone, if I would love everyone to be in the world to be saved and go to heaven one day, ultimately, like, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to make that happen.
Yeah, you're only controlling you.
Yeah, so the only way I can, in my mind, the only way I can slightly affect that is by treating people the right way, treating people the way that I believe that you should treat them, and ultimately loving people. And if you love enough people, at some point, maybe I'm the Jason Richardson example for somebody else. And that's the only way I can look at it. So,
spot on, man. Spot on. I agree. It's how you treat people, and that's my mentality as well. It's like I'm right there with you. I love that. I think that's awesome. I just wrote that down as that number. We're at 63:35 and or like right around there of that quote. So I love that. I think that's really solid advice. What did you were a sports studies major at Bethel, correct?
Yeah, I think they translated that over to exercise science at some point.
Okay.
I think that was after my time, but Yeah, I think it was sports studies is what technically my major is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that just kind of like, did you choose that right away, or was that something you chose when you got there?
Yeah, I think originally I wanted to come in and be a PE teacher.
Yeah.
But then I realized quickly I didn't want to be in a classroom setting as much. And then when I realized that being a soccer coach for a living was viable, I was like, why would I want to be a teacher? Like, my experience with teachers was we didn't treat them very nicely.
Yeah.
Do I want to be on the receiving end of that?
Did you switch majors your sophomore year then?
Yeah, right after my first semester.
Yeah, I kind of remember that because that's when we were living together.
Yeah, so I switched it to sports studies, and back then they didn't have exercise science, and then they added it later, and I think it was too late for me to add it. But I was literally like Calc 2 and Chem 2 off of having an exercise science degree.
Yeah.
So when people ask, I basically say that's what it is. And I'm super nerdy about that stuff. I love it. I was a strength and conditioning coach for years and had my own company, and that's a world that I love to be in. I'm a nerd when it comes to that stuff. I love it.
Yeah. What are I don't know the right word terminologies, but like, what do you encourage people just base level? Like, what do you encourage people in the nutrition and health and fitness kind of arena?
I had this good chat with one of my kids from Venezuela yesterday, actually. He sent me a little numbers sheet of this much of your exercise program should be this, power based, and this should be this. And I'm like, you know what? It's all individual. Everything is 100% individualized. Obviously, I deal with athletes more than non-athletes, and that's the realm I'm comfortable in and enjoy. But just for the everyday public, I think the most important thing you can do is eat well. And eat well means you get the right fruits and vegetables into your system, get the right amount of greens, get the right amount of protein, get the right amount of fat. Fat, growing up, fat was always a bad word, and now it's like a big buzzword. I've experimented with a lot of things. I mean, you talked earlier about you wouldn't give your athlete something that you haven't tried yourself.
Right.
So for me, like I had a kid who was struggling with his weight on the team, and he's a kid I've had even since he was 12 in clubs. So I've known him a long time.
Yeah.
I started intermittent fasting, and I didn't need to intermittent fast, but I thought, well, if it works for me, it'll work for him. So I tried it. I do it probably 4 or 5 days a week now, and I love it, and I feel better, and it's really made me. I do a lot. Like, I'll go on a 20-mile run completely fasted.
Yeah.
So my body is like fat adapted now, but that's not for everyone either. I think that works for me and my metabolism and where I'm at in my life. But we really clean our house. I don't think we're overboard with it. Like, we're not counting calories or any of that stuff. Yeah. But we eat really clean, and
that's what I try to do as well. It's the same. It's I've found a lot of success just like maintaining my weight and controlling it with just kind of avoiding processed carbs.
For sure.
And as many carbs as I really can cut out, I do. I always look for, I buy a bread that's like low carb, no sugar added, and it's still, you still got some in there, but it's a balanced diet. It's just, I'm not loading my body up with just a bunch of processed carbs and sugars and crap. I try to eat clean meats, proteins, vitamins. Your vitamins and minerals and nutrients are, those foods that are dense with that type of stuff.
Well, I look at what we were eating when we were in college.
Oh, seriously, dude, right? Can you imagine how much better we would be if we actually
That's what I joke about all the time. Wow. I used to eat ramen noodle sandwiches. I used to put ramen noodle, cook it, and then put it in slices of bread. Like, how I wasn't 300 pounds, I'll never know. But now it's like I come home and I get done with a run and I'm eating avocado and I'm eating, I was joking the other day with my wife, she makes, she'll bake some broccoli and we'll have it as a snack. I'm like, imagine if I was doing this when I was young.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But again, it's all based on your living situation. Like,
for sure.
It's more expensive to eat that way. It's crazy.
For sure, 100%.
It's more expensive to eat
so expensive.
food that has had less done to it.
Yeah, I know.
But my brother-in-law, for example, he did the meat-only diet for like a year.
Yeah. I've heard good things.
He lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But everyone was giving him grief about it. But he feels better. I mean, he sits down for one meal a day, and it's 2 massive steaks.
Yep.
There could be worse things that he could be doing.
It's true. It's true. I've heard good things. I mean, I've heard a lot of good things for sure with the carnivore diet and some of the health benefits. And I do wonder sometimes if it's just not, obviously a year long is a whole nother ballgame, but like I do wonder sometimes if it's not just the fact that you're not eating the same things as you were before.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that, there's a lot, I've read several books on carbohydrates and low carb and the effects of sugar and carbs in our diet. And a lot of what, some of the research might suggest with some of these different diets, even Weight Watchers. I know you said my mom was also, she's like a lifetime member or whatever, because she used to teach back in the day. But, and they've shifted a little bit over the years as well. It fits a little bit more of that low carb lifestyle, but the low, Weight Watchers, these low calorie diets that you're doing, you're consuming a lot less carbohydrates and a lot less of these processed foods that you're consuming, or putting in your body. So when you do that, I think it impacts you bigger than you realize, and you see a lot of people kind of plateau over a long period of time. And I think it's just that initial drop off of the carbohydrates and some of the bad foods that they were consuming.
Yeah, and your body is the greatest machine that has ever been created. So your body adapts so quickly. If you do the same thing again and again and again, at some point you'll plateau. So for me, I'll sometimes come off my fast because I feel like my body almost needs to go back into, let's eat cake for a couple of days. Yeah. And then when I go back into fasting and eating cleaner food, my body's like, oh man, I like this better, and it will react better to it. I think too many times, like, it can be miserable sticking to a diet.
Oh, yeah. I try to make it a lifestyle change, and that's why I say, am I eating low carb? Yeah, 100% I'm eating a low carb diet. I try not to say that it's a low carb diet. I'm trying to focus on what I'm putting into my body as being like the positive things, and just a lifestyle change of, I'm going to eat almonds as a snack versus potato chips, or whatever it is. Or if I go out to eat, I love a burger, man. I mean, come on, it's hard to beat a good burger. But instead of getting the fries, I'll pay the $2.50 for a side salad. Like, it's like you said, it's more expensive, but I just limit the amount of carbs that I'm putting in my body, and I think that's being cognizant of that and acknowledging that and recognizing it, I think is huge.
Well, there's the saying, you are what you eat, right? So whatever you put in is what you're going to be able to put out with it. I hunt, and we eat a lot of venison, and
you hunt.
You watch those deer. Yeah, you watch those deer run around the woods, jump over logs and stuff. If I want to be an athlete, I should probably put some of that in me.
Absolutely.
We look at it. So,
well, and Rogan, I don't know if you listen to Joe Rogan ever, but he eats like all of his elk that he shoots and kills, and he talks about that too, of how he feels so much better and more alive whenever he's eating this like stuff he's actually consumed that's lived in the wild. And
and even if it's placebo effect, at the end of the day, like, if you mentally think you're better, who cares? Like, it works.
100%. What do you use any, especially with running and kind of some of the things you're pursuing, do you have any supplements or anything you take?
Not really supplements. I just started drinking, I think it's called Nun, MUUN, I think is how it is. That's like my post-run recovery, just get my electrolytes in me. It's just water basically with electrolytes. It's like 10 calories in it or something. The key for me is, as soon as I get in from my run, I need to eat within 10 minutes, and that gets straight into my system, and I recover so much better.
Yeah, probably retain a little muscle too. And
I do, if I go on a really long run, like when I do my races, I'll do the gels.
Okay. Those like goo or.
Yeah, I use the Stinger, Honey Stinger.
Okay.
Gels, because they're organic.
Yeah.
And it's honey, the sugar, the honey going into your system, it'll jolt you a little bit. So I like that. But really, I don't use any of that stuff. I used to do the Advocare products, and I still use those in my players because I think they're excellent products.
Advocare, you said?
Yeah, Advocare, and I'm a supplier for that because I did it years ago, but I use them for my guys in season because the season's so hard on their bodies. But I don't personally use any of that stuff myself because I like to know that my body's doing what it's supposed to be doing because it can, not because of other hidden factors. So
I use Onnit, some of their products.
That's the Joe Rogan uses that stuff.
Yeah, he's like part owner or something, but I really like it. They have like a great, even if you don't take their supplements, they have a really great website where they have just tons of information about nutrition and intermittent fasting. You can read. Pardon the weed whacking that's going on underneath my window right now. I was telling my wife before we got on this, they like mowed this morning, and I was like, it's without fail. Every time I do a podcast, it's like the day that they're gonna mow, and it's like the day that they're gonna like ruin everything. But nothing I can do about it. It's out of my control. Nope. But anyway, I use I do like their B complex, so like vitamin B, like complex supplement. They have a minerals, like a mineral supplement, and then I can't talk today. I don't know if you noticed that, but spirilla and chlorella or whatever it's called, supplement, just like a greens, like the superfood greens. So I use those on the daily, just I don't know, get a few more vitamins and nutrients and into my body. And
the closest thing to all of that in my life is my wife's essential oils going through the house all the time.
Yeah, I use some of those too. It smells good. Yeah, why not?
If nothing else, it smells good. So.
Exactly. That's what I say too. It's like, man, I always buy the ones that like kind of could be like a, I don't know, like a cologne of some sort, There's this one we do doTERRA, and it's called Balance, and it's just like earthy, like piney. Oh, it smells so good. It smells like a man, Yeah. I'll like rub that on a little bit. I'm like, all right, good to go. Let's do it.
If she puts the lavender on at night, I'll fall asleep pretty quick. So it's good.
That's awesome. Well, man, shoot. College, man, there's some funny stories. What are some of your favorite stories from college? They can include me or not include me. Go for it. You can throw me under the bus, man. I know we had some moments, but I
was thinking about some of the stories, and there's honestly, like, I remember more from the last few years than I do the beginning couple.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There was some kind of. We did have a hamster. Didn't we have a hamster when we lived together?
Let's leave the we out of this. You had a hamster.
Okay, I had a hamster called Hammy, I think, and he used to sit in that ball and walk up and down the hallway. I feel like there was one time that me and you pranked each other really bad. And didn't you end up filling the sink with pee or something?
I don't remember, man.
That's something I don't know why I remember that.
It sounds like something. The biggest one that I remember was when I used your trimmer.
Yeah, that was it.
That was the one. And then you like pranked me after that or something, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. You had left, and I was like, I'm just gonna like trim things up. Below the belt.
You should explain to everybody where you use my trimmer.
Yeah, below the belt, and you had left, and I thought you were gone, and you came back in, and you were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I mean, bro, I'm telling you, I've grown up a little bit since then. I'm not saying I wouldn't still do that, but I'm just saying.
Well, if my buddies who I lived with later, the ones I are on here, they've got a lot of stories about me that are different. I mean, I remember we ran around campus in Speedos one time.
Yeah.
We TP'd the entire campus. There was about 6 to 8 of us. We were collecting toilet roll for the entire year.
Man.
From campus, hiding it all places, and then
I could use some of those rolls right now.
Yeah, it's funny. But there was Will Walker was the NAIA basketball player of the year, 6'8" guy. He was out there with us, and we went out one night and we just wrecked the middle of campus with these. It's beautiful the pictures that you saw, and the president back then.
Don't think I knew that was you.
Yeah, so that was one of my brainchilds, and we did it over a year. We stole all this toilet roll, and then we hid it out in bushes in black bags, and about 6 of us went out and TP'd the entire campus, and that was pretty cool. And we did peanut butter pranks on every car in campus one time, under the wipers and under the handles. I love that stuff. Yeah. There's way grosser ones, but we'll leave those out.
Yeah, but even like those, they're pretty innocent, you know? Like it's like, it's just fun. And it's fun to have a good time.
I got my fiance's car.
Nice. You probably got mine too.
She wasn't exempt. Literally every car on campus got it. I mean, do you remember Bobby Morton, who was he was a starting center for Notre Dame football before he came to Bethel and was the RD.
Yep.
So Eric Hooley came with me. I think Gray Houston was there as well.
Yep.
And we went out and we went to Krispy Kreme and we emptied every donut we could and filled a car with it, with trash bags. Mm-hmm. And then we filled Bobby's truck bed with donuts. And the next morning we were walking out to chapel and he's like, I know this was you. And he's shoveling these donuts into the trash can. It was so funny. But yeah, we did a few good fun ones.
That's a good one for sure. I love it. Any other like things from college that really stick out to you or you think about?
No, the best experiences in college were soccer was awesome, track was awesome. I was lucky to be successful in both of those, but just the relationships with people. I met so many awesome people. Some of my best friends, like Caleb Ladig, I was talking to him last night. He's big into cycling right now, and he's trying to get me into that a little bit. And,
nice.
Robbie Burns, who's one of my best friends. These guys were all in my wedding, and Robbie's he's a head sprint coach at Butler. So just the relationships with people. I actually had lunch 2 weeks ago with Tim Jenkinson and Jason Richardson.
Yeah, I haven't seen Tim since Joel's wedding.
Yeah, and I don't catch up with them all that often. Yeah. But there's a core group there that I speak to quite frequently, and and when we get back together, the best thing is we're like brothers again. Yeah. Like immediately. Yep. I mean, I'm sure you have that experience with your friends.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just, I miss not seeing those guys, but right now with all of our lives are at with young kids, like it's not as feasible with work and our kids. But when we get back together, the cool thing is we're like brothers, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it's important. I completely agree. It's the relationships that I built. I second guess sometimes of like, would I go back? But if it meant I didn't get to meet the people that I got to meet in college and have the people in my life that I have, I would go back for sure. You know, I mean, it's a no-brainer, but those relationships
I've never left college now.
Yeah, you just prolonged it. Yeah,
it's really cool being on the other side of it.
I bet.
And now watching, like, I'll have 18 international kids on my team this year.
That's cool.
And it's really cool watching them kind of go through the same things that I went through.
Yeah.
And hopefully I can do a good job of helping mentor them, because I had good people in my life who helped me. So. Yep.
And that was my next question, actually. Who would you say like inspired you throughout your life, or a mentor that like mentored you and brought you along? Is there one, or a few people, or somebody that really sticks out to you when you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like inspiration, it's obviously my mother. I don't think I'd ever tell her that to her face, but she's an unbelievable lady, and she's the best. But I would say most of the stuff I did in my life was for her, whether I realized it or not at the time.
Yeah.
But as far as mentors, I think I take the good from as many people as I can, and then if I think there's bad things in certain people, I just forget it. Yeah. So Gidman, I just took the good from Gidman, like his enthusiasm for everything.
Yeah.
And the guys, we didn't always like the way that we played soccer with him, but we all liked him.
Yeah.
There's something in that. Thiago, who's there now, is a good friend of mine still, and just the way that he's calm in tough situations, and the way that he can pour into guys' lives spiritually, that's something that obviously I didn't grow up with that. So learning from him and those aspects. My pastor here, it's actually Cody Troyer's dad, Gene. I mean, again, like we went to that church because he was the pastor and because I respect him. And cool. It's funny, you'll never believe this, but I actually preached the message just before Christmas in a church.
Patty.
So knowing me to that, like it's clearly I've changed a lot, but so I kind of take from different people. Tony Natale is a huge one. He's the track coach at Bethel. He's now the AD.
Yeah.
Never coached a practice ever, but the most motivating person I've ever been around.
That's cool.
And so I just try and steal from people.
Yeah.
And I think I'm still doing that as I get older.
It's like cherry pick the things and put it all together.
Yeah, for sure.
I have 4 questions as we close things out here. These are a little more intense, potentially, a little more pointed. Yep. So, start it off. What would you say you're most proud of to date?
Oh, 100% my wife and kids.
Good on you. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not always a great dad, but I know my kids know I love them. And I know my wife knows I love her, and I know they all know that I would do anything to make them happy and to protect them. That was my number one goal in life, and right now, I know I'm at least doing those things.
It's beautiful. It's awesome. We've talked about this a little bit, but what do you look forward to most in the future? Do you have any goals or ambitions?
Yeah, so obviously the running side of things, the goal is to qualify for the elite race in London. So I'm either looking to go under a 1:15 half marathon, which is like 5:43 pace per mile, or go under a 2 hour and 45 full marathon to qualify for that. So that's on the horizon. That's something I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be able to do, but it's going to take a lot of mileage.
Yeah.
And then just with the family, we built this house that I'm sitting outside right now 2 years ago. It's our dream home on 12 acres. I hunt here, and I'm really sad that we're going to have to leave it because Winona is 45, 50 minutes away, but we're actually building another house there. So I'm really excited to live there with the kids, be in the community 2 miles from my office. We'll be on a golf course, and I like to golf, and so does my son. So that's like our big dream right now as a family, that we can move over there and kind of be in the community, because my wife and kids love being there. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Good for you. Do you ever think about your legacy? Like when you look back on your life, what do you like? What do you think about, like, with your, as far as your legacy, or like what you want to leave this world? Like,
so I want my kids to know that their dad was there, and I don't want my kids to know that I was their best buddy all the time. I want them to know that I did my best to love them the best way I knew how, and I also want them to know that when I've made mistakes, that I'm man enough to tell them that I made a mistake. But my only intention when I made those mistakes was to love them the way that I knew how.
Yeah.
And then the same with my wife. We're all going to make mistakes, so I just want them to know that I love them. So that would be my first thing, that they can turn and say, man, my dad might have been a butt sometimes, but he loved us. Yeah. And he did his best, and he provided the best for us. And he encouraged us to be whatever we wanted to be. And then I would say, occupationally, I want my kids to know that I cared about them more as people than footballers. Yeah. That I made them better players ultimately, and I helped them achieve their goals and their aspirations, but that I helped them to become great men, great husbands, great fathers. Yeah. Whatever. And be passionate about their career and be successful at it. And hopefully change some lives. Hopefully, like my life was changed, hopefully bring kids over and they say that I helped change their lives by just giving them an opportunity. And then just people I'm friends with and my family, I just hope they have really funny memories of me that they can turn around and they can laugh. Like, they can say, man, remember when he did this? Yeah. And I think that's what I would like, kind of, if it's on your tombstone. It'd be a big tombstone, but that's all right.
I love it. I love it. Looking back, last question. Looking back, what advice would you tell little Aaron?
Oh, man. I would tell him that keep being a cocky son of a gun, because it's going to get you somewhere. And even though people don't like it in the beginning, when you're a little kid with big glasses, telling the bigger kids who are, come from nicer families or bigger families with more money, that you're going to do more than what they ever did because you had that chip on your shoulder. So keep being that cocky little kid, and going after your goals and not caring what people think.
Yeah.
But I would also love to tell my kid and myself that don't wallow in the self-pity of not having your dad around or having a bad relationship or getting whooped all the time or whatever it is. Don't wallow in it. Keep your chin up, because you're going to turn around one day and be 33, sat in an amazing house with an amazing wife and kids, and all those things are going to shape you into the man you are today.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. It's always good catching up with people. And again, like, it's like we've never stopped talking. You know, like,
exactly.
It's easy to talk, so I love that.
All right. Peace, everybody. We love you.